When I first started teaching, I thought, I don't want to be this teacher, right? We all know who it is, right? But guess what? Our students don't. Well, Ferris Bueller came out in 1986, right? The average age of a college professor is about 50. And that means in the 1980s, they were watching movies like this. But today's students were not born in 1986. They weren't even thought of in 1986. So this is a problem. Studies say that the things that you like the most happen during your glory days, right? And your glory days are, roughly 16 to 20. So if the average age of the professor is 50, then we could say that they were probably born in about 1965, thereabouts, right? And so the thing that resonates with them is going to happen when? What decade? 80s. So let me show you what I mean, because I've made this mistake too. So when I teach about substitutes, I do the usual, right? Coke versus Pepsi. And then I'm like, hey, I'm like younger and hipper, and so I'll throw this up there for them. It'll help them remember, like when they're taking their test, they'll remember this example. And so I say, kind of like Madonna and Lady Gaga are substitutes for each other. But they don't know who Madonna is. So when I give them this example of like, look, they're doing the same thing, they're wearing the same outfits, it's the same kind of music, it's the same kind of shock value, they don't get it. Because they truly, they're not faking it, they don't know who she is. What did I do? Well, I went back to the drawing board and I said, you know what? There's a lot of media out there for ECON, and a lot of people have worked in this area, but we need to update it. Let's go through and look at media for the last 50 years. And so what we did is we went back to the 60s and we identified a song for every single year. And we found the econ in it, the concepts and the lyrics that tied it together, and we put it all together in a paper. So let's start with the ones we all know, right? So of course we put Satisfaction, right, by the Rolling Stones in there, because they try and can't get satisfaction. So this is really all about utility and unlimited wants. Of course we put Taxman by the Beatles in there, right? So the 60s were kind of the easy ones to do because they're already out there. When we move into the 70s, we added Lean on Me, which is really about the division of labor, right? We did Cats in the Cradle, which if you remember this song, it's gonna make you cry, so listen to it with a box of tissues. It's really about opportunity costs and the decisions that you make. Don't watch the song if you're at a conference away from your children. It's not a good time to do it. We have I Like Beer, which is really about substitutes. They talk about all the different substitutes for beer. And we have the Kinks, A Gallon of Gas, which is about complementary goods, right? So you can cover substitutes and complements just by staying in the 70s. We have the 1980s. In the 80s, we have Billy Joel's Allentown, which is really about unemployment and labor motility. We have Money for Nothing, the Money for Nothing, Chicks for Free song, right? It's really about no free lunches. And then, of course, we have I Want It All, another one of those classic econ songs, right? Which is about inelastic demand and unlimited wants. So, so far I'm in your wheelhouse, right? You feel very comfortable with these songs. So now we're going to move into what students are comfortable with. So when you get to the 90s, we start with AC/DC Money Talks about luxury goods, exchange rates. Move on to Bare Naked Ladies, which has the song If I Had $1 Million. It's really about real versus nominal prices. There's a little inferior goods in there as well. And then we have Coolio's Gangsta's Paradise. I don't know if that's on your playlist or not, but it's really about the economics of crime and incentives, right? Now we move into the 2000s. So in 2000, we have U2's Beautiful Day, which is really about international trade and externalities. We have eBay by my favorite, Weird Al Yankovic, which is about markets and trade. And I always play the song at the beginning of the day when I talk about supply and demand and markets. We have Circulate by Young Jeezy, which is about velocity of money and inflation. And we have Down by Jay Sean and Lil Wayne, which is about business cycles and the financial crisis. Now, I would challenge you to work in Young Jeezy, Coolio, and Lil Wayne into your next presentation, right? It really just brings a whole new level. In 2010, which we haven't gotten through this decade yet, so we don't have as many choices from here, but we have Price Tag, which is really about the willingness to sell and the willingness to pay. We have I Need a Dollar by Aloe Black, which is about money and cyclical unemployment. And we have Thrift Shop by Macmillan, which is about preferences, consumption, and saving. So the other project that we're working on is identifying movies. It's a little more difficult to pick out the 50 movies because when we picked out the 50 songs, the first thing we got was, what about this song? What about this song? You left off this one. And so we tried with our songs to represent as many genres as we could and to also pick songs that were, classroom appropriate too. And so with the movies, it's a lot, it's real easy to listen to a song, but with the movies, it's a lot of movie watching. And so we decided to go to conferences and get feedback. And I want to share 3 movies that I use in my classroom that really kind of speak to me and see what you think. Moneyball. This is a great film. There's lots of things, right? It's sabermetrics, there's lots of statistics. You can talk about, the different teams have different amounts of money. Brad Pitt's in the movie, so you can, enjoy watching it. It's really for, the men and the women. You've got, it's all about baseball too. And so you have this idea of there are teams that have tons of money and can get any players they want. And you have other teams that don't have a lot of money, and how are they gonna make it work, right? And so what they did is they went and they found undervalued players using a range of statistics, and they said, we're gonna buy these players that nobody wants and then use them and then possibly even trade them and sell them. And so there's this idea of arbitrage going on as well, when you have this difference in price or difference in value. Another great film is In Time. It's a sci-fi flick that uses time as currency in this economy. So there's no money, there's only time. And everybody who's born gets a certain amount of minutes, a certain amount of hours when they're born, and then as they work, they're paid wages in terms of time. When they go and buy their coffee, they're paying for it in terms of time. And just like in any economy, you have people who have it all, and you have people who are very destitute and are living second by second, minute by minute. And so you have to think about, how do you allocate your resources? What kind of society do you have in this type of economy? The other one that it's in a similar sci-fi dystopian theme is The Hunger Games. There's a lot of good econ in here. There are the simple things like specialization, and you have business cycles, as well as the circular flow, because you have these 12 districts, not Federal Reserve districts, they're Hunger Games districts. You have these 12 districts and they all make different things for the economy. But then every so often they have to participate in the Hunger Games. And the Hunger Games are put on by the government, and every district has to put forth a male and a female candidate. And there's all kinds of complex econ in it. So you can buy food to live on by putting your name into this lottery more often. You also, when you go into the actual game where you're competing against the other players, it's a fight to the death. And so during this fight to the death, they put a bunch of supplies and weapons in the center, and you have to decide, do you go for the weapons, do you go for the food, or do you go run and hide to try to live another day? Then there's all kinds of things to do with the political economy and what kind of decisions that we make today and how that affects us later on, and what kind of world do we want to live in. I promised in the abstract that I would explain to you how to do it yourself. Okay, because it's one thing to show you video clips or to show you songs that you can use, but how do you do it for yourself, right? And my plan is always to work a little bit smarter versus staying in the office longer, right? And so I let my students do a lot of the work to help keep my information current, because I don't have time to go to the movies, because I like the music that I listen to, and I don't have time to listen to their music. And so what I find works well, I didn't say I didn't like their music, I just said I didn't have time to listen to it. So what I find works well is to do a little assignment, and the assignment goes like this. Pick a song, pick a movie, now we've expanded it into television shows and video games, and find the economics in it. Do a little write-up, so this goes with our writing across the curriculum, and tell me about what's going on in the song and identify the concepts. Then they do a little presentation in class, and if I teach online, which I do every semester, they make me a little, either a narrated presentation or a little video or a Prezi, something interactive. and tell me about the econ in it. This allows me to continually update my slides to kind of get a feel for what's popular with my students at a very low cost to me. Another example, or another way to use this kind of thing in the classroom is to do Rockonomix. So as Tom mentioned, I've been doing Rockonomix for the last 6 years. I'm grateful that Worth has sponsored our national contest. And the way Rockonomix works is it's Weird Al Yankovic meets Schoolhouse Rock. And so what you have students do is pick a popular song. They could all pick the same song. You could tell them which songs you want, or they could pick their own song. They rewrite the lyrics, make it about economics instead, and shoot a new music video. It has been the thing that keeps me going. When you're at the end of the semester and you have lots of grading to do, instead, I get to look forward to watching music videos made by my students. Some of them are fantastic, some of them are horrendous, and they're both a lot of fun, right? It's fun to see either example. And what's happened recently is we've actually expanded into the high school space. And so Worth's high school counterpart is sponsoring our high school level contest as well, which is going to be a lot of fun. So I want to show you some examples.
Trading for this and for that, everything is infinite supply. This is the reason why we sell and the reason why we buy, oh yeah. Demand supply, break by. Price is right when market's right. Don't you see competition's good? Keep it fair, the good regulates. Make your money work, make it grow. Invest, sell and buy, the market's right. Make the money, let it take you there. Make the money till you're rich. Demand and supply, keep prices right. It tells you what to make and what to buy. Make the money, let it take you there. Make the money till you're rich. The monopolies are started taking over, cheating their way to the top. The government was like, no, what you want of the market, so yeah. You've got a very big situation, sure, but not fix all this. See you benefit from competition, just keep your businesses off it. Make your money work, make it grow, invest, sell and buy, the market's right. Make the money, let it take you there. Make the money till you're rich. Demand and supply, keep prices right. It tells you what to make and what to buy. Make the money, let it take you there. Make the money till you're rich. P to the R to the I to the C to the E. P to the R to the I to the C to the E. See you benefit from competition, just keep your businesses open. Make your money work, make it grow, invest, sell and buy.
And it just so happened this showed up in my mailbox at the university, and I have never heard of Nyack College. Apparently they're a small college in New York City, but they just did a fantastic job and they really bought into it. And so what I do is I show my students examples kind of at the start of the semester to get them excited about it, and most of the time I have a video that already goes with something that I'm teaching. So you do it at the start of class, you get them settled, and they just find that it's really interesting. So the Rockonomix project for my class has just opened up over this past weekend, and they're signing up for their groups. They're deciding on their songs right now. So it's not too late to join us, the national college level contest, but the deadline is November 15th, and that way we can have the website up and running, and voting will take place during the Southern. And then the high school level contest will happen every spring. So the deadline will be April 15th because that's a date that lots of people remember. And so that will be for anything through the academic year. So as we've added in the high school component, we're moving from a every semester college competition to once a year and alternating it with a high school. So if you're interested, let me know. We'd love to have you join us. I still would like to win, but it's probably not going to happen. As it gets more competitive, it's going to be harder to win. If you know high school people, this would be the year to do it. It'll be the easiest year to win this year. As it gets more competitive, it gets more difficult.